Welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Diane, and today we have the midlife whisperer herself on the podcast with us, Dr. Ellen Albertson. I am so excited to have her because she's made a difference in my own life in terms of thinking about how to approach midlife with fun and compassion and empathy. But she's also got a brand new book coming out called Dragonflying, and we're going to explore what it means to be human in the 21st century. Wonder, curiosity, connection. Where will your adventures take you? I'm Dr. Diane, and thank you for joining me on today's episode of Adventures in Learning. Ellen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dr. Diane. It is so awesome to be here.
I am so happy to have you here. I've been a fan of your work for several years now, and I thought maybe for those who don't know you, give us a brief introduction to what it means to be the midlife whisperer.
So I'm a one-stop shop for all your midlife needs. I look at midlife not as a problem or a crisis, but it's truly a portal to your second adulthood. So by training, I'm a psychologist, I'm a dietitian, I'm a board-certified health and wellness coach. I'm also a certified human design coach, and I kind of really combine science and soul to help women go smoothly through this hot transformation, right? And come out the other end and feel like, oh my God, like nobody told me how incredible midlife is, because I am living proof that when you do the work, when you know yourself, when you love yourself, when you energize yourself, you change your vibration, you transform from the inside out, your midlife can be an incredible chapter of life. And I think that's something that I think a lot of us want to shout from the rooftop, because when we look at the metaphors or, what we've been taught about midlife, it's like, oh, it's the wrong side of 40. And we've been taught that we have to, be young and like thin to be valuable. It's all about our looks and staying a certain way. And I'm here to say it's about growth and transformation. And it is an absolutely incredible time of life.
I love that. And I definitely agree with you. I think that we don't talk about midlife in a way that is positive in many ways, at least not when I was growing up. It was sort of, that was almost the end. It was sort of like once you hit 40, it was all over, or 50, it was like, what did you do? And I'm realizing it's such a playground of opportunity, and the filters go off in so many ways, and you're able to stand in your power. It's something I hope that we can give our daughters so that they don't necessarily have to take as long to get to that spot as I think our generation has. Can you talk a little bit about what it means to know yourself, love yourself, energize yourself, reprogram your brain, empower yourself, rehab your relationships, and enlighten yourself?
Sure. Those are my 7 steps in my book, Rock Your Midlife. And it's really what I came up with when I've been working with midlife women for over 30 years, even before I was at midlife myself. So, and if I had to shift the steps again, I would definitely start with love yourself first, because that was the big shift for me. Before I learned what's called self-compassion, which was the topic of my dissertation and my research, I was so hard on myself. I had such a fierce self-critic. I could talk about it, the anti-authenticity trifecta. So self-criticism, perfectionism, and people-pleasing, and kind of having that conditioning in place. But loving yourself is really, I feel like, the most important step. Because when you love yourself, you stop doing the things that insult your soul, and you start attracting what is truly in your best interest. So when I'm doing a midlife radiance assessment with people, we really look at where's your self-love? And people are like, well, how do I start that? And that's really self-compassion. It's the how of self-love. So that I would switch to number 1 is love yourself, because then you've got this built-in support for yourself. Then the authenticity piece is so important. And in this piece, I use a lot of what's called human design, which is kind of a science meets soul using quantum physics and things like I Ching to get to know yourself. Because what happens is I feel like the first part of our life, our adult life. So, we go to school, and then we've got kind of 18 to we hit our 50s. And it's like we're climbing up this ladder of success. We get to the top of the building and we've clawed our way and we worked so hard, and we're like, wait a minute, I did all the things I was supposed to do. And we get to the top of the building, we look around and we're like, I am not happy. what happened here? It's because the ladder is up against the wrong building, because we didn't start with like, who am I? What do I love? What lights me up? It was like, oh, what's going to please my parents? And what does success look like in our society? So we're comparing ourselves. We're kind of building this level of success that's external to who we are. So you've got to know yourself. I have people go back to think about, what did you love to do when you were a kid? What was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up? What does your human design say? So like my human design is amazing because I have what's called the right angle cross of the vessel of love. So I'm here to teach love. And here I am, before I even knew about human design, teaching self-compassion and teaching heart math. So I'm here to like teach people how to connect with their hearts, how to connect with love. So I use a lot of different tools to help women to be authentic. And I think midlife, when we go through menopause, we think about all of the dark side, but it's like such the phoenix moment, right? We're like burning up literally. And we're like, I can't do this anymore. Our brain and our nervous system are reforming for what is next. And part of that reformation is knowing ourselves. Then we get to energizing yourself. If you want to transform at midlife, you've got to have energy. And this is where I really pull in, my background as a dietitian, but it's about nutrition, it's about movement, it's about stress, and it's about sleep. If you don't have those four things going on in the right direction, you're not going to feel your best, and you're not going to have the energy to do your work in the world, whatever your soul is calling you to do. You don't need to do it all at once. I'm very much against these sort of quick fixes. Like we're seeing a lot of that now in social media. If you're going through menopause, take this pill, do this thing.
Right.
It's a process of learning, but doing that from the place of self-love. Like I started out my career as a dietitian and then a personal trainer. And so it was so much about beat your body up. When your body's perfect, then you'll love your body. Now I start with love yourself, love your body, and let things unfold from there. But the stress piece is really important to emphasize because so many of the symptoms of menopause, perimenopause, which is that period leading up to menopause, are due to stress and inflammation. Because what happens is, we've got these external stressors, aging parents, growing kids, work pressures, all kinds of things. The stress is up. And when estrogen goes down, estrogen helps to mitigate stress. So it's really important to do the stress management, particularly like in these crazy stressful days, like turn off the screens. Then we get to 4, which is reprogram your mind, your brain, which I'm sure you're all about, right? It's this
Yes.
neuroplasticity, this idea, which blows my mind, that you can literally change the structure of your brain. Changing your mind. So really looking at your thoughts, which are positive, negative, and neutral, taking in more of the positive thoughts, looking at your mind as a servant, not a master. Don't believe in all your thoughts, but working on your mind, you change the structure of your brain. As you change the structure of your brain, you change your mind. So it's this very powerful loop. And I give people lots of ways to change the structure of your brain using your neuroplasticity and rock your midlife. Then we get to 5, which is empower yourself. So I feel like once you love yourself, you know yourself, you energize yourself, you reprogram your brain, it is time to strap on that parachute and jump out of the plane and do the thing that your soul's calling you to do. It might be write that book. It might be start that podcast. It might be, start some other side hustle. And it's about listening to your heart and following that path of courage. The word courage, the root of it is core, which is following your heart. It's French for core is French for heart. So feeling empowered, like I'm going to do this thing. And you don't have to do all at once, but a lot of another thing I'm working on now is becoming your future self now. Like it's all about raising your vibration, raising your frequency, becoming her, which isn't easy. We were talking about this off the air. Every time you step it up, I know you've just moved and you're trying to like recreate yourself, right? Every
Right.
time you do that, I've moved to Costa Rica. I'm really trying to create this incredible Dragonflying community. And every time you step it up a notch, the fear comes in and says, why are you doing this? This is not safe. It's uncertainty, because your brain wants to keep you safe. And when you step outside your comfort zone, when you're empowered, that's not safe. You're going to fail. You're going to make mistakes, but that's like living to your fullest potential. Then we get to 6, which is super tricky. This is rehab your relationships, because what happens is you become what I like to say the dragonfly, right? But people still look at you as like that caterpillar or that nymph stage. You're like, no, I'm a dragonfly here. I am fierce. I'm empowered. but they're looking at you and saying, no, you're still that caterpillar or that nymph. And so what they try to do is pull you back into their reality because we're all living in these kind of Venn diagrams that are like overlapping. And
Yeah.
so they're like, you're kind of like harshing my reality here. I don't exactly love what you're doing. And so this is really all about things like saying no, creating boundaries, practicing nonviolent communication. And sometimes you lose friends. I know when 8 years ago, I left a marriage that wasn't in alignment with who I was becoming. And a lot of people didn't understand, didn't like it. And so it's about letting go of those relationships that are no longer serving you. And the universe is going to send you new people who are really going to be in alignment. So that's 6. And then we get to 7, which is enlighten yourself. And this is really all about connecting with your passion, your purpose. As the Dalai Lama says, the world is going to be saved by the Western woman. And you're looking at the world and thinking, what in God's name could I do to make a difference in this world that's seems to be going south? But raising your vibration, staying in peace, staying in joy. And it's not about being a Pollyanna where everything's perfect all the time, but staying in a positive place, helping your kids, your grandkids, keeping your vibration really in a high place, taking care of yourself is so important. And this step is so much about understanding that you are a soul having a human experience, not the other way around. And I think that totally shifts your perspective when you see like, oh, wow, I came here for a reason. I'm looking at it through this kind of metaphysical quantum physics lens of I have a mission here and I have to do this thing. And that's a big wake up call for midlife is you start to realize there is less time in front of you than behind you. And it's time to like step up to the plate. And if you're listening to all this and you're like, oh my God, this is like so overwhelming. I don't know what to do. Go grab a midlife radiance assessment on my website, The Midlife Whisperer, and I will help you figure out your next steps. Because that is my mission. My mission is, as we were talking about, is to help to get women out of the matrix. A lot of the women, when they come to me, they're doing a lot of numbing out, feeling overwhelmed between menopause, which is like throwing gasoline on the fire, the craziness in our world, looking at the news media, issues with aging parents and kids. We're sort of caught in the middle. It can feel overwhelming at the end of the day. You might feel like, God, I just want a glass or two of Chardonnay and I want to like have a threesome with Ben and Jerry's and like find something to watch on Netflix. It's easy to do. And there's nothing wrong with doing that once in a while. But if that's your MO and you're trying to take care of your nervous system, which is totally understandable, I'm here to help you to find another way to take care of your nervous system and also to learn and grow and make a difference in the world.
As you were talking, I started connecting some dots. A lot of my work has been in the field of early childhood. And as an early childhood educator, our job is to create these learning ecosystems to help children thrive and grow. And it has so much to do with what you were just saying. You're helping them to know themselves, to love themselves, to figure out complex relationships with other people, to come into their power and their possibility. And I love the idea that in so many ways, when we hit midlife, it's revisiting some of that earlier joy. It's reconnecting with who you were as you rise and figure out who you're going to become.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
I do a lot with learning through play, and I feel like that's a huge way that we can connect into sort of that joyful part of who we are, that as adults, we forget how to play. We get so caught up in all the things you were talking about, the horribleness of the world right now, the aging parents, the needs of our children, finding your way in a community, making a move. And if we give ourselves the grace and freedom to be able to play, whether it's mentally, spiritually, emotionally, we give ourselves a way to reduce some of that stress and to be more in tune with the world that we're in right now. I wanted to ask you about, we talked about sort of that matrix that we're numbing out. And that seems to be a huge problem right now, that people feel like they're being, and not just women, men as well. The news is overwhelming, pick an issue. And you've got one issue that day, you're going to have 10 others the next day. It's hard to know where to focus and how to just be present. And is that enough? How do you help people sort of find the power to stand in the present without disengaging?
Just breathe. It's such a simple answer. And, sometimes the simple is best. And so I teach a lot of heart math. If you're listening, all you need to do is locate the area in your heart and your chest. Breathe into your heart and chest area a little slower and deeper than usual. And find a slow, steady rhythm that's comfortable. And then if you want to, you can connect with a higher emotion, compassion, kindness, love, care, or think of someone or something that you love. That will shift your vibration. Do this over the course of the day. Even put a reminder on your phone to pause every couple of hours. I would say that, and then practicing this idea of self-compassion, which is being kind to yourself rather than judgmental. When you watch something, I have to say, I watched Avatar the other day. I have to gripe about this. My nervous system was just like, what is this? We have a cute little movie theater down the street from where I am in Costa Rica, and I saw the first one and I loved it. And I went and I'm just thinking, 3 hours of violence, right? And I was just like giving myself compassion because my nervous system was, when you notice, that's the first thing, being kind to yourself rather than judgmental. Understanding that we all suffer. Suffering is part of life. That's common humanity. We all make mistakes. So when you make mistakes, like the other day, I made banana bread. I'm gluten-free. I put in baking soda instead of the flour. They were both in white plastic things.
Oh,
I just laughed. It was like, okay, it's just a cooking mistake. It's no big deal. So that's common humanity. And then it's mindfulness, which in the context of self-compassion is noticing when you're suffering and noticing, I just read this and like my nervous system isn't used to seeing, like I just saw somebody, wasted, just shot. If you've been watching some of the news, which it's all over the place. And
right.
I would say also too, just really see what helps your nervous system. Like I've been watching those monks who have been walking, from
Yes.
Houston to DC. And I'm like, I love that. I just love them. I pray for them every day. And I'm kind of like feeling like I'm on that. But I think we have a choice. And so that's the numbing out, because the stress, the anxiety, if it bleeds, it leads. When we talk about neuroplasticity, we have grooves in our brain that connect with what is familiar. And it's like, oh, this is familiar. I know how to handle this. I click into that. It's like when you drive to work automatically, you know the way, and you get there and thinking, I wasn't even aware. But it's that presence and realizing that you have a choice. You can choose to read a book. For me, honestly, talking about playing, I've been playing handpan. It's a wonderful instrument that I absolutely love. And I met someone here in Costa Rica. He was playing and it was like the Pied Piper. I was like, what is that? That's part of my human design of responding to what lights you up if you're a generator in human design. So I would say the first thing is just breathe. What that does literally is it powers down your sympathetic fight and flight nervous system, and it powers up your parasympathetic nervous system. So just breathing, doing that heart math, just breathing into your heart, sending positive vibrations out into the world. We are vibrational beings. That really does make a difference. Practicing self-compassion. And then I would say, get to know your design. That's been a game changer for me and for my clients, because human design really shows you your frequency, how you are designed to operate in the world, what your purpose is, how you show up. So that's that big piece of knowing yourself. But yeah, the short answer is just breathe.
Imagine a space where curiosity drives innovation, where empathy fuels collaboration, and where learning feels less like a task and more like an adventure. My message isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about changing how you see the plate entirely. I'm Dr. Diane Jackson Schnorr, and through the power of purposeful play, I equip leaders, educators, and organizations with the tools you need to unlock creative problem solving, deepen human connection, and build resistant ecosystems of empathy and innovation. Attendees will walk away not just inspired, but empowered, with immediately usable strategies to spark curiosity in teams, to lead with empathy, and to infuse learning into their everyday cultures. You'll learn how play isn't child's work. It's the secret weapon of the world's most effective leaders and change makers. This is not a feel-good talk that fades by Monday morning. It's a movement, a shift in how we engage people, solve problems, and lead meaningful change. My talks and workshops are shaped by decades of experience in education and a transformative message that connects across sectors. Whether your audience is corporate, educational, or nonprofit, they'll leave ready to rethink what's possible, both personally and professionally. Because when we learn and lead through play, we don't just change organizations, we change the world. Check it out at drdianeadventures.com. And human design, let's go into that for a minute, because that's a huge part of Dragonflying, correct?
Yes.
Can you give us sort of just a quick highlight of what human design is in case people don't know and connect it to your new book?
Sure. Well, I'll talk about, I guess, Dragonflying first. So Dragonflying came to me because it's actually one of the gates. Human design uses the I Ching, and there's 64 numbers called gates in human design, and 55 is in my chart, and it's represented by the dragonfly. And it came to me because I was looking for a new metaphor for midlife women. And we all know the butterfly, right? I'm sure you've read The Hungry Caterpillar. The butterfly, it's such a goopy metamorphosis, right? It's like you build this shroud and then you digest yourself and then you've got to break free. And then I feel like the bird comes along and just eats you. You don't stand a chance. The dragonfly, on the other hand, is incredible. The transformation, what happens is it spends 2 to 3 years in the water as a nymph. And I think about water as your emotional state. So you're sort of learning how you operate emotionally, how your nervous system operates. Then one evening, I like to think at the stroke of midnight, it climbs up a stalk of grass or a reed. It molts its last layer and it pushes the water in its body into its thorax and into its wings, and it basically unfurls and flies away. And dragonflies are incredible. They are actually the most successful predators on the planet. They predate the dinosaurs. I mean, they used to be huge, like 6 feet long. And they're amazing. They have 360-degree vision. They can go from 0 to 40. They can hover. They can fly in all directions. They can use their wings in all separately so that they can really maneuver in amazing ways. So I really feel like this is the new metaphor for midlife. And also when you think about that sort of phoenix, and when I getting back to human design, we're currently making this transition as a species from the cross of planning, which started in 1620. There are these things called incarnation crosses in human design. And we're moving into the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is happening in 2027. And we're also right at the cusp of the fire horse. So there's all of this like fire energy changing. The cross of the sleeping phoenix is transforming from this cross of planning to the cross of where each and every single one of us has to be the authority, the author of our lives. We're realizing that the medical institutions, the government institutions, the religious institutions, which we have relied on as a species for millennium, are failing us terribly. And so each of us has to figure out, who am I? What do I believe? How do I take care of my own health? And figure out how we can create a better society based on individual autonomy as we work together, as we value the individual. So that's kind of what Dragonflying is all about. And I'm creating this Dragonflying Academy for midlife women to help you make a quick transformation, because the cool thing is that when you transform from the inside, what shows up in your external reality shifts. And this isn't just woo. I love combining science and soul. There's neuroscience here. It's your reticular activating system. When you believe, like, I'm going to make some friends today. I know you're moved to a new place, right? And you don't know anybody. You're like, all right, I'm going to go to that coffee shop and I'm just going to meet a really cool woman and she's going to be my friend and it's going to be awesome. Well, your brain's like, okay, I am looking for cool women. Oh my God, there's a cool woman over there. I love her scarf. I'm going to walk over and say hello, or I'm going to buy her a cup of coffee, or a cookie. Yep. But that's what happens if you believe like the world's out to get me and everything is wrong in my life. Well, then you're going to be in this protective cocoon, like that, that chrysalis.
Right. Back to the caterpillar metaphor.
Back to the caterpillar, right. So what human design is I really feel like human design is kind of your flight plan. And it's taken me a while to really embrace it because, I've got a PhD in psychology. I've got all of this, and I'm a 1-3 in human design. That's called your profile. There are 12 different profiles. So I'm this academic who wants to know and learn everything, but I'm also the experimenter. So I'm like, experiment, try new things, bring it back and tell people as you learn more and more and more. And I have to say, using human design in my life and in the lives of my clients, helping them, coaching them, helping them to contemplate their design has been a huge game chaser. And it really dovetails with the self-compassion because everybody matters. We're all so beautifully unique and valuable. And I think so many women at midlife, along with the numbing out, I see a lot of women, they don't feel worthy. And I'm here to say that you are worthy. You are a fractal of the divine. And that's what human design shows you of just how magnificent you are. It also shows you your shadows, what you're not good at. So it's just an incredible opportunity to know yourself on a deep level and to really figure out, how do I navigate these next decades?
I like that. And as you were talking, I was thinking about, what energy we bring to the world. And you're right. We see that all the time. You go out to the coffee shop with a certain energy that you're bringing. You choose to engage in community, and how you present in many ways influences how people perceive and what you connect with. And some of that distills, I think, into empathy as well. It's sort of when you're empathetic towards yourself, you give yourself the grace to try these things, and you might make a mistake. You might fall down, but you try again. But it also gives you a chance to look at other people from a less judgmental point of view. You're trying to understand why they are the way they are, or, what their perspective is. And you don't have to agree, but at least it gives you a point of view where you're like, oh, okay, I get where they're coming from. And I find myself thinking that if we can bring that kind of energy to the world, we might be able to move past some of the divisiveness. Much of it, I think, is artificial, that the algorithms and things are throwing at us as well.
Yeah, we have a lot more in common than not. And I think that's something that, COVID taught us all. Like, everybody gets COVID. It doesn't matter your ethnicity or your age or anything. I mean, everybody has these basic human connection points. We all want to connect. We're all dealing with things like loneliness and our immortality and making a difference in the world. And we want to connect. I mean, that's the positive side of the internet too, is that it's allowing us to connect with like others and spread our message. So I think it's really important to become, in human design, you learn how you consume everything, not just food. You learn about your digestion, how you consume food, how you consume media. What are you consuming? And get really, really intentional about it. Notice that uncomfortable feeling when I'm about to numb out, when I'm about to pour that glass of wine. Okay, what do I really need right now? Maybe I need to listen to a podcast like yours and get some nourishment on another level. Maybe I need to call a friend or go for a walk or play with my dog. But that's a big piece of self-compassion. I have people write a list, and you can do this. Make a list of all the ways you take care of yourself in terms of the categories of body, mind, heart, spirit, and relationships. And then when you're feeling that edge that I have to numb out because I'm uncomfortable right now, pull out the list and give yourself what you truly need. But I love what you said about empathy and shared connection and belongingness. And I think that's a piece in this sort of patriarchy that's really crumbling, where it's all about separation. I think we're wanting to get on the same page of connection and just seeing how connected we really are. We're all connected to Gaia. We're all connected to Mother Earth that we need to nourish and protect and relate to, and not literally take all of her resources for
Right.
ourselves. But
And I think that when we build that connection, we're so much stronger as individuals and as communities. And a lot of my hope these days is placed in seeing the resurgence of community in a way that I haven't seen it before. And I think that gets to what you were talking about earlier, that we are on the cusp of huge change. And you can feel it in the air. You can see it in the way that we're interacting. Old systems, old ways aren't serving any longer. And so what do we put in their place? How do we bring ourselves the power that we need to stand? But how also do we connect with others in a loving and compassionate way?
Yeah, and it really is an inside out world. I mean, I think that we're taught to look outside ourselves, to feel whether that's safety or to feel good. And it's really about shifting your frequency and feeling good inside, doing things like heart math and self-compassion meditations, and then attracting what is in vibration, because we're magnetic. We are energetic beings. We're literally sending messages out of who we are, what we want to attract. And I think that's what's happening is like your niche, your people will form around you when you are your authentic self. But we're still, I think that I see this a lot with midlife women, particularly if you go, on any social media, there's this pressure about your looks, right? It's like you're supposed to be turning back the clock. You're not acceptable if you aren't looking youthful. And the most important thing about you is your looks. And I think that for me is something that's been super freeing about midlife is like, my looks aren't the most important thing about me. I mean, I'm all about looking cute and being healthy and, and feeling good and liking who and what I see in the mirror. But women are indoctrinated into this idea that we have to focus so much on what's external and how we look instead of how we feel. I think midlife women just want to feel good.
And there's a difference. And, as you were saying that, I was like, yeah, the difference is you're doing it for yourself. The health, the joy, how you look versus you're doing it because other people expect it or you're trying to fit a certain mold. And I've definitely felt that shift for myself. Health is important to me. Being fit is important to me, but it's because I want that energy to be able to carry it into the next 30 years. I want to have a very active senior life. And so that starts now, but it starts because I want to feel good and sort of that joy of the energy, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're taught that like movement and diet is like punishment. Like you've been bad and now you have to starve yourself and do soul crushing workouts. And I think that for me, moving my body just feels great. It's fun to swim and run and walk and bike and do yoga. It's
Right.
not punishment. It just feels good.
Well, it's living in alignment. And it's the same thing with, and we're digressing a little bit, but, I went vegetarian almost 10 years ago now. And for me, that's a choice for me that's in alignment with the rest of what I believe. And it feels good. And I love the creativity of trying to find good recipes, and I cook for omnivores in a vegetarian world, and it's really fun to be able to find something that satisfies everybody. That's a form of creativity for me now.
Yeah, I love that you brought up creativity because I think that is sort of the antidote. The play and the creativity is the antidote to the numbing out. Once you open that journal and you start to write that poem, or you pick up that instrument, or you put on some music and dance, or you cook. I mean, cooking is a huge way. Actually, I was a celebrity chef in the '90s. My ex-husband and I were literally a cooking couple. So cooking is just such a beautiful way to express your creativity.
Yeah, watercolors. I mean, there's so many fun ways. Photography. I suddenly discovered in my 50s that I'm a really good wildlife photographer. And who knew that was a skill set that I had? But it's part of that idea of learning through play. I have one final question for you, Dr. Ellen. It's the question I love to end with everybody, and that's what currently brings you hope?
Oh, wow. I have to say, I see babies on the beach. And I see children, and they're so perfect. And I think we need to get back to that place. And I see kids and I think, okay, they come into the world and we need to believe in that hope. And then I just also those monks who are walking and everybody who's joining them. And it's not about right, wrong. It's not about a peaceful, they're not protesting. We need to get out of that energy of the antagonistic protesting, whichever side you're on, and just get on the peace page. So it's almost like that. I'm at the tail end of the baby boomers, that sort of peace and love and all of those things. So I would say both this sort of idea of being peace from within and connecting, and then just seeing, babies and kids and just like, okay, the world is still such a beautiful place. I'll have one more quick story. I was on the beach the other day and I was looking for wonder. I just asked the universe, you know what? I had just read about some of the horror going on and I was like, leave my phone at home, go walk to the beach. Walking down the beach and there's all these people gathered. These turtles, baby turtles had emerged from the nest and people, Ticos and Canadians and Europeans and Americans, everybody was working together to ferry these little turtles who were at the sort of the top of the beach because it's a long walk for a baby turtle all the way to the ocean. And they were picking them up and we were putting them in the ocean. And it was like, wow, nature is just wild. Hundreds of baby sea turtles, everybody working together to save them. So nature always warms my heart when I just see it. And I think that's a piece is understanding that you're part of nature. And when we connect with nature and we see the perfection, not in them. And people make great stuff, but nature is just, there's nothing compared to seeing a baby sea turtle or some piece of nature happening.
And wonder is a great prescription when you need to find hope in these times. Dr. Ellen, thank you so much for joining us today. I will post links to all of your resources in our show notes, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Adventures in Learning podcast with your host, Dr. Diane. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, download, and let us know what you think, and please tell a friend. If you want the full show notes and the pictures, please go to drdianeadventures.com. We look forward to you joining us on our next adventure.